Welcome to SIM-PAC Live. I'm your host, Geoff Matthews, and today I talk to David Doral from Dovetail Electric Aviation. David recently wrote an article that caught my attention, titled, "Europe has lost the eVTOL race." And that's what we're here to unpack. Dovetail is a company focused on retrofitting existing aircraft with electric propulsion systems rather than designing entirely new airframes. But before we bring David on, a quick bit of context so everyone can follow the conversation. When we talk about electric aviation, you'll often hear two terms. eVTOL refers to electric vehicle takeoff and landing aircraft, often described as flying taxis, typically carrying 4 to 6 passengers. eCTOL refers to electric conventional takeoff and landing aircraft, runway-based regional planes that already exist today, but are electrified. David, welcome to SIM-PAC Live. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me today, Geoff.
Great. I hope you had a great Christmas with your family and friends.
Yeah. Well, good. It's a good thing to every now and then have a little bit of a break. Something that happens, literally, once a year. So I try to make the best out of it.
Right. Now, you wrote an article just a couple of days ago, and about what you saw at the Dubai Air Show, and take me through that.
Look, we've been attending air shows now for a while, I guess that we try to be present in the most relevant ones. We were also at the Dubai Air Show, the previous edition in 2023, and we've been in Farnborough, Leverage, and so on. Something that was definitely. I guess it called my attention for sure was that there was significant presence of companies developing eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. You could find there the usual suspects, particularly the American ones that are driving these, now more recently very hard, like Joby and Archer. A couple of years ago, there was also significant presence from European companies, particularly Lilium and Volocopter, but also other lesser known companies like Chrysalion. None of them were present this time. Actually, you could see a number of Asian startups pushing hard in this segment too. Companies from China, also from the Middle East, that have significant presence and big flashy exhibitors there at the show. And again, no trace from Europeans, right? I guess the main reason is because the Europeans that were there present in the previous edition, they're gone. I mean, they're bankrupt or basically acquired by Chinese companies. So, unfortunately, from an European perspective, it looks like Europe is losing or has lost the race for eVTOL.
Okay, we want to talk about the importance of this, because some people might be thinking, especially after the autonomous taxi debacle in San Francisco, last month, where everything stopped in a power cut. They might be thinking, eVTOL is, that's a stretch. Do we really want that flying around in the skies above us? But underlying it, there's some really important strategic technology development that's going on. And that's really the race I think you're talking about. Yeah,
because, and just to give the audience a little bit of background, I'm not the biggest proponent of eVTOL, right? We in Dovetail we're pushing for electric aviation, but we believe that it's a stronger need and a stronger business case on electrifying a small fixed-wing aircraft, conventional aircraft, where we basically replace the propulsion system with an electric motor and batteries. So from a point of view, aircraft that take off vertically and land vertically to enable particularly urban air mobility, so basically the Uber of the skies, is a nice idea, but I struggle with the business case, right? Because it's going to be significantly more expensive than what some people like to think, and I don't believe that we're going to have those flying taxis flying over our heads in the next few years. So from my point of view, I think that there are better uses for the technology. But at the same time, it's frustrating to see that others are developing technologies and are finding that there could be an application to that technology. And look, the way that new technologies are introduced in markets sometimes follow a niche approach where you identify what could be considered a niche application, you penetrate the market, and you grow from there. And a typical example in this context is Tesla. Tesla started developing a roadster, a sports vehicle, right? That was the first product in the market. Something that, it definitely wasn't meant to be of mass consumption, right? And from there, they grew into something bigger. Right. That is what could happen with electric aviation, and particularly with eVTOL and distributed electric propulsion. I question, the companies that try to convince us that what they're doing initially is not a niche application. That we're going to have flying taxis mass adopted in the next few years. But the value of the technology is there, and probably what those companies are not saying is that the initial adopters will be wealthy individuals and very very specific applications. But the important thing is that that technology has a lot of promise, whether it's initially for very specific uses, and again, seeing a whole continent, progressive continent, and part of the world like Europe, basically for whatever reason, saying no to that or getting off the train early in the process is disappointing.
I know that you're doing your own battery development, and the battery, it's around cooling and weight, but also take us through that distributed propulsion systems.
Yeah, so one key characteristic of these eVTOL vehicles is that obviously they're electric. They initially use batteries, although there are options now, or there are companies that are developing also hybrid versions, hydrogen, but probably that has less future. What typically characterizes all of those companies and all of those approaches is that they make use of what is called distributed electric propulsion. So basically, what it means is that you have many smaller electric motors providing thrust and lift to this aircraft, and that is one of the big benefits of electrification. With electric motors, the scale doesn't matter that much. While with the turbine or with the internal combustion engine, particularly a turbine, the bigger, the larger the size, the scale, the better the economics and the efficiency. That's the reason why, basically all the airliners, all the commercial aircraft have only two engines. Right, and that's why the four-engine aircraft basically have disappeared from a commercial point of view, because you can build a more efficient, cheaper to maintain two-engine aircraft than four-engine aircraft, right? But that with electrification doesn't work or doesn't apply, and that is again one of the big benefits. Electric motors can be as efficient whether you have 2, 3 or 20, right? There may be always a level of additional complexity having 20 electric motors compared to 2, but again it doesn't follow the same proportionality as internal combustion engines. So because of that, you can leverage that, and you can introduce things like higher safety indexes or rates, because now if you have and the typical number could be between 6 and 10 electric motors, if one of them fails, no big deal, right? But also because it can introduce other additional benefits. When you, for instance, with a fixed wing aircraft, when you can install an electric motor at your wingtip, because that electric motor is smaller, it can introduce additional aerodynamic benefits, right? So the wingtip effect that can reduce drag in that wing. That's something that is way easier to be done with an electric motor, because again, the efficiency and the scale factor doesn't go against you. Right, so that's something that we were seeing with these eVTOL vehicles, but it will be also applicable in the future to fixed wing aircraft. This technology being developed by all those companies, even if the business case that they're proposing is not as lucrative as they promise, I think that it will be in the benefit of the whole industry.
Yes, and it is one thing for Europe to lose manufacturing capacity to let's say, China or Asia. But it's another thing to abandon all that research and intellectual property and that development, because then you're really relying on foreign countries for everything in terms of what you're given. You're going to be the person who's only the consumer at the end. And I know that there's been with Airbus that they're manufacturing in China, but Airbus is still a European-based, research and development company and owned in Europe. That's the sort of thing you're talking about too, is that the EU at this early stage, before we even know where this technology is going to go, has sort of abandoned that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because probably Europe, what is trying to apply is the same formula that has made Airbus successful to this new segment, right? And actually, there's also significant funding allocated to electric aviation in Europe, but now it's getting concentrated on supporting the long-term, large ticket price items of R&D to promote the introduction of more electrical systems or more electric aircraft on larger airliners, right? So what that is not bad, but the problem is that we're talking about a new segment, right? We're talking about almost a new industry. And typically when there's a disruptive technology, that market is seized by new entrants, right? And incumbents, really struggle to have a position there. Look, this is what is happening with Airbus, and they started with hybrid aircraft, then they move into hydrogen, and then they slowing all that down, right? What they want to do is to defend right now their existing markets. The aircraft carrying 150 people and more, right? But electrification is not going to enter the market there. It's going to enter the market with 10, 20 seaters, and applying a formula that supports the leaders, and in this case the leader of this segment, Airbus, to develop products that will get into the market in 20 years time with much larger scale of what the technology can do today. But it's basically is giving away that segment to others, in this case China, right? Probably the public opinion doesn't make a big thing out of it, because again, flying taxis are not a thing, and probably won't be a big thing for the next few years. But in 10 years from now, we'll realize that that technology is applicable to other things, even to larger electric aircraft, and then places like China will have overtaken us, they will have, something similar to what is happening with cars, right? In Europe, they will basically own that market, and European companies will be left completely behind.
And also, it's going to slow decarbonisation down. I mean, the innovation at the grassroots level, companies like yours. I did some calculations yesterday looking at the replacement of the fleet you're talking about, and that's conventional takeoff and landing and retrofitting these small commuter aircraft. And it's going to take between 40 and 100 years to replace the current fleet. So if you even bought a new electric plane out today and said, okay, buy these, it's going to take 40 to 100 years to replace the current fleet, where you're retrofitting. And that's the only way we're going to do it. It's the same in the trucking industry, by the way, exactly the same. So retrofitting at that smaller scale in those regional aircraft is the only way we're going to get there in time.
Look, that's I guess our approach, our strategy, and our hypothesis, right? Focusing on the retrofit of existing aircraft, right? In this case, probably we don't need vertical takeoff and landing. We may not even strictly need distributed electric propulsion, but all of those technologies are related, right? What these eVTOL companies are doing is developing more efficient batteries for aviation, more efficient electric motors for aviation, and the fact that companies in other parts of the world are attracting the funding, the interest, the support of governments and corporate or larger corporates means that they're going to take that, right? So even if if, as you said, retrofitting probably is the best way to have an impact on the decarbonization of aviation. Going faster with the development of distributed electric propulsion, batteries, and auxiliary technologies will help us to retrofit much faster and to decarbonize the industry much faster.
Yes, no, totally. And also, you mentioned in your article that the way the EU is looking at funding decarbonisation is we don't care where the technology comes from, it was built. It's about as long as it's decarbonising within Europe. There is a structural issue with that. And the structural issue is that you could end up giving EU subsidies to companies in China, which are also getting Chinese subsidies. And therefore, no one on a small scale in Europe is ever going to compete with somebody who's getting a double subsidy.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one, right? On the one hand, the European approach is, look, decarbonizing is good, right? Regardless of where the technology comes from. But at the same time, if we're talking about sovereignty, we're talking about independence, we're talking about geopolitical issues, right? Just giving away money to other parts of the world that are competing with you doesn't make any sense. And what I would say is that initially those subsidies are not benefiting Chinese companies, probably because in that case it will be more obvious, right? And there will be somebody that may realize that it's not going to be politically very, beneficial. But what we're seeing is that there are North American companies getting those subsidies, right? And look, the current situation is telling us very clearly that North America, and particularly the US, has its own agenda, and they don't care about the rest of the world. They don't care, whether it's Europe or China, right? So again, giving away precious resources and precious funding and capital to non-European companies is basically saying, well, we don't care about our industry, we don't care about our strategic presence in this segment, and we'll give it away to someone else. I guess these days it's not the right way to go.
So, David, Dovetail Electric Aviation, you're an Australian Spanish company. You've got a foot in each hemisphere. You see more than other companies in the space. What are you seeing out there from your perspective, and to how Europe is looking?
So, despite the probably suboptimal allocation of resources, Europe is trying to drive this kind of trend, right? We argue that it's not being done very efficiently. But Europe is a large economic area, progressive in the sense of sustainability and decarbonization, and that is one of the reasons why we are there. We're getting significant traction in Europe lately, and yet, with the number of things that should be better, right? And again, something that is really frustrating, as mentioned before, is when non-European companies or companies with no European presence whatsoever attract the kind of resources that should be dedicated to companies, local companies, really driving technology there. From our point of view, we've managed to get enough support to keep going. Particularly when we compare with our activities in Australia, what we're seeing is that frustratingly also, because we're originally an Australian company that set up a subsidiary in Europe, not the other way around, is that we're getting attracted more and more to do work in Europe, because Australia is getting behind with all of these. It's interesting because Australia has a very strong initial introductory market. Small aircraft are a big thing in Australia, right? And they will be the initial adopters of these kind of technologies. And actually, we're looking at, we're hearing a lot of interest, and we're engaging already with operators in Australia, like Royal Flying Doctors and similar companies. But at a structural level, at an institutional level, at the country level, it looks like electric aviation is not going to be a big thing in Australia, and that's why we are getting we're growing bigger, or we're going faster in our growth in Europe than in Australia. Again, something that is frustrating. But well, yeah. Other than that, we're moving forward. Last year was a challenging year for us, but at the same time intense. And we've done a lot of work, and now we're in preparation for our first flight that hopefully won't take too long to happen.
David, thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you for explaining that to us, and good luck to you. I'm looking forward to your first flight.
Thank you very much, Geoff, and thanks for having us today. And definitely you'll hear from us when that happens.